You know, have you ever felt like you're just not quite built for the modern world? Like a simple trip is just a minefield of potential disasters waiting to happen? Well, today we're diving into the story of a man who takes that feeling to a whole new, hilarious level, especially when he travels. Get ready to meet the accidental tourist.
So, our guy kicks things off with this incredibly bold, and let's be honest, very funny self assessment. This isn't just about travel mishaps, you see, it's about a fundamental disconnect with how life is supposed to go. He's just constantly amazed at how other people, well, how they just function without leaving a trail of complete chaos behind them. And trust me, he is not exaggerating. He gives us some classic examples. I mean, can you imagine trying to find the restroom at a movie theater and somehow ending up locked in an alley? Or being that person who has to go back to the hotel front desk 2 or 3 times a day just to ask what their room number is? So you can only imagine what happens when you put this man in an airport.
Which brings us to our first major incident, the Great Airport Explosion. Okay, so picture this Logan Airport in Boston. The author and his family are about to fly to England for a week. Everything seems to be going fine, almost too fine. The fuse for this explosion of chaos is something we can all relate to, right? A frequent flyer card. He's just joined a new program. He remembers the card is in his carry-on bag. The mission is simple. Open the bag, get the card. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, everything. First, the zipper on his bag jams, so he starts pulling on it. Then he's yanking on it with grunts and, as he puts it, increasing consternation. He pulls harder and harder and harder until bang. The zip gives way suddenly and catastrophically. And the scale of this disaster is just magnificent. Everything inside that bag is, in his words, extravagantly ejected over an area the size of a tennis court. We're talking a blizzard of papers, coins rolling away to who knows where, and the real tragedy, a now lidless tin of pipe tobacco just scattering its contents everywhere. His first thought, his first moment of panic, is for his expensive tobacco now all over the floor. But that panic quickly shifts when he realizes the zipper has gashed his finger and he is now, as he puts it, shedding blood in a lavish manner. It's just total, unadulterated chaos. But the absolute best part of this whole story is his wife's reaction. She doesn't scream, she's not even annoyed. She just looks at him with what he describes as simple wonder and delivers this absolutely perfect line. "I can't believe you do this for a living." Just brilliant. But his adventures in clumsiness don't just stop at the gate. Oh no. Once he's actually on the plane, things somehow manage to get even more awkward at 30,000 feet. Okay, so here's a quick one for you. He leans over to tie his shoelace at the exact moment the person in front of him decides to recline their seat, instantly pinning him in the crash position. He literally has to claw at the leg of the guy sitting next to him just to get free. You can just picture the silent, panicked struggle, right? Okay, but that's not even the worst of it. On another flight, he somehow manages to knock a soft drink all over the woman sitting next to him. You know, it's an accident. It happens. The flight attendant comes over, gets her all cleaned up, and brings him a replacement drink. And he immediately does it again. He describes his own arm acting like some kind of zombie limb from a horror movie, just sweeping the brand new drink right back onto her lap. I mean, the sheer improbability of doing that twice in a row is what makes it so funny. And the woman's reaction? It's just pure stupefaction. She lets out this oath that, let's just say, was not at all what he expected, especially considering she was a nun. But even that wasn't his worst in-flight experience. His absolute rock-bottom moment came when he was actually trying to be charming. He's having this great, witty conversation with an attractive woman in the next seat, making small talk, all while thoughtfully sucking on the end of his pen. So he excuses himself to go to the lavatory, and when he looks in the mirror, he discovers the horrifying truth. The pen had leaked. His mouth, his chin, his tongue, his teeth, and even his gums are a vibrant, horrifying, and, worst of all, scrub-resistant navy blue. A look he'd be stuck with for days. His dream of being suave was officially over. So, all these disasters, they really point to the author's one true goal in life. It's not fame, it's not fortune. It is a desperate and apparently impossible quest just to be normal, to be suave. These are his simple wishes in life. To get up from a dinner table without it looking like a localized earthquake, to get into a car without leaving a foot of his coat hanging out the door, and the eternal struggle, right? To wear light-colored pants without somehow ending the day sitting on gum or ice cream or motor oil. We've all been there to some degree. His family, of course, is completely aware of his condition. Whenever food is served on a plane, his wife starts issuing warnings to the kids. It's this hilarious image of a whole family bracing for impact just because their dad is about to pick up a plastic knife.
So, when he travels alone, he's developed a strategy for damage control. He doesn't eat, he doesn't drink, he doesn't lean over to tie his shoes. He just sits perfectly still, sometimes literally on his own hands, to prevent them from causing what he calls liquid mischief.
And this brings us right back to where we started. Back to that frequent flyer card, the very thing that kicked off the whole airport explosion. You'd think after all this suffering, he'd at least get some reward miles for his trouble, right? Well, you'd be wrong. This right here is the heart of his frustration. He flies about 100,000 miles a year. 100,000. But he has only managed to actually accumulate, wait for it, 212 miles. The gap between his effort and his reward is just a giant chasm. And why? Oh, it's bureaucracy, of course. On a huge flight to Australia, he was denied all his miles because the ticket was for B. Bryson, but the card was for W. Bryson. He tried to explain the ancient and very venerable relationship between Bill and William, but the airline clerk was just not having it. So he comes to the conclusion that he won't be flying to Bali in first class anytime soon, and in the end, he just rationalizes it all with his signature humor. A long flight like that would require him to eat, and as we all know by now, that's just asking for trouble. And that's the accidental tourist. It kind of reminds us that maybe we all have a little bit of that chaos in us when we travel. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's your most memorable travel disaster? That one story you know you'll be telling for years to come.